and welcome to today's history lesson. Today, we are going to be talking about Wilberforce and the abolition of slavery. Thousands of people all over the world had slaves. I am sad to say that America also had many slaves. The thing that made it even crazier was that even while many people had slaves, there were also many people thinking about equality. After all, didn't America's Constitution say that all men are created equal? The people that were anti-slavery were called the abolitionists, and one of them was named William Wilberforce. Wilberforce was born on August 24, 1759 in the United Kingdom. Wilberforce began his political career when he was 21. In 1784, he became a member of Parliament. Wilberforce was an accomplished young man. He became a Christian, which changed his life in many ways. When he was 28, he met a man named Thomas Clarkson, along with a group of anti-slavery advocates. They eventually talked Wilberforce into joining them and their cause. Not too long after that, he became one of the leading abolitionists. He fought against the British slave trade for 20 years. Now let's go back to the slaves for a moment. These poor men and women were kidnapped from their homes in Africa and were forced to be slaves. They wore tattered clothes that provided little protection. They had barely any food. They didn't have much time to sleep, and they tirelessly toiled day after day. Being whipped for any mistake they made. It was terrible. These poor slaves were not only treated badly, but they looked terrible to behold. They had scars that pretty much covered their bodies from head to toe because of the whip. Many abolitionists wrote things about the terrible life the slaves lived. These stories turned more and more people away from slavery. Unfortunately, Parliament still did not make slavery illegal. Parliament did not want to make it illegal because merchants made a lot of money. The abolitionists had a lot of hard work in front of them because Parliament decided that slaves were not people, and if they weren't people, then they couldn't use the operation of law to have the same freedom that non-slaves enjoyed. In the United States, many people in the North were against slavery, while people in the South were for it. You see, the Southerners had huge plantations that needed massive numbers of workers to tend to them. This was how people in the South made money. Delegates from the North said that slaves are only worth 3/5 of a white person. In America, as in England, people started giving speeches on the evils of slavery. Runaway slaves talked about their brutal life as a slave. Even songs that were anti-slave were sung. Many people knew that the slave trade must stop before anything else happened. That is why William Wilberforce argued with Parliament to make the slave trade illegal. Finally, in 1807, the slave trade was outlawed. 1 year later, America also passed this law. Then in 1833, the Emancipation Act was passed. Slavery was finally illegal. Just 3 days after this law was passed, Wilberforce died. He was so glad that he lived to see the day that slavery was finally made illegal. While England now had no slaves, America would still be a nation with slaves for many more years. Well, that wraps up our presentation on William Wilberforce and the abolition of slavery. See you next time.